Imagine standing off the coast of Athens, gazing upon a legendary warship that's been docked. The ship of Theseus. The ship of Theseus, being of great historical importance to the Greeks, never returns to the sea. Instead, it remains stationary. However, even an immobile ship will eventually need repairs, and as the years go on, one by one, each piece of the ship must be replaced, one by one, until eventually not a single plank of the original ship remains. Now we have something that might look like the ship of Theseus, but is it actually the ship of Theseus anymore? At what point does the ship of Theseus stop being the ship of Theseus? Is it when we've replaced every part? Is it when we've replaced 50% of the ship? When? But the thought experiment doesn't end there. Our bodies are made of cells that die off and regenerate. At what point in this cycle are you no longer you? But there is a loophole in this philosophical quandary. Although we can grow new ones, our brain cells largely do not regenerate. Well, if we are our bodies, then whenever we decide that the ship of Theseus would no longer be the original ship of Theseus, our bodies would similarly not be our bodies. And after a certain amount of aging, we would therefore no longer be ourselves. But if we are our minds, then the only parts of the body that would matter would be our brains and our nervous systems, which largely do not regenerate, evading this problem altogether. But if we are our minds, then who we are is what we think. And if what we think is a product of our memories, then we are our memories. But can we trust our memories? Memories are information that is retained over some interval of time. There are many different types of materials over which memories can be stored. The two main ones are meat and machines. Memories stored in meat would be memories stored organically, the type of memories that you or I have inside of our heads. This type of memory, and the errors thereof, will be the focus of this video. Machine memory would be like data saved on a computer. This type of data comes with its own set of errors that differ from the errors of meat memory, but that's a topic for a different day. Physically, our organic meat memories in our brains operate through the mechanisms of electrochemical signaling. Philosophically, there are three mechanisms of how memory operates in our brains. Encoding, the processing of information that is to be stored. Storage, holding the encoded information until it's called for. And lastly, retrieval, the accessing of stored information. There are primarily 7 sins that our organic memory commits against us. Transience, absent-mindedness, blocking, misattribution, suggestibility, bias, and persistence. The first 3 are sins of omission, which means that they represent a loss of memories. The last 4 sins are sins of commission, which means that they represent a fabrication or a corruption of memories. Sins of omission represent a loss of memory. There are 3 that I'd like to lay out for you. Transience is a naturally occurring loss of memory over time. Transience was best documented by Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve. This logistic graph is the result of repeated experiments of memorizing information strings of varying length to determine how long memories are retained. Transience would be like forgetting the name of your preschool teacher. For a period of your life, you interacted with your preschool teacher nearly every day. Yet, after enough time passes, that memory will gradually fade. Absent-mindedness is found at the intersection of memory and attention. When our attention is diverted during memory encoding or memory recall, it can prevent us from accessing those memories altogether. Absent-mindedness would be like forgetting where you set your car keys because you were talking to a friend at the same time. Blocking is when you have encoded memories that are stored properly, but you cannot directly recall them. Blocking is usually temporary. The most common example of blocking would be the tip of the tongue phenomenon. The tip of the tongue phenomenon is when you can't quite recall something, but it feels like you're on the verge of remembering it. It's as if the word you're looking for is on the tip of your tongue. Sometimes when you experience the tip of the tongue phenomenon, you may be able to access what are called ugly sisters. Ugly sisters, named after the Sisters of Cinderella, are words that sound similar to the blocked word. This could be words that rhyme with the blocked word, or words that start with the same first letter, or even the meaning of the word that you can't remember. Additionally, I would be remiss to neglect to mention the Baker-Baker paradox. The Baker-Baker paradox goes something like this. If you show someone a picture of a man and tell them his name is Baker, they would be less likely to remember him than if you instead told him that he is a baker. Sins of commission are a type of memory errors that result in either false or corrupted memory. Misattribution involves assigning a memory to the wrong source. There are many types of misattribution, but here I'd like to outline two. Déjà vu. In ancient times, déjà vu used to be cited as evidence of reincarnation and other mystical ideas, though a more updated explanation is that déjà vu is a misattribution of our current sensations and experiences onto our past, and is thought to be a result of emotional data within your memories of similar experiences getting stirred up. Memory conjunction errors. Memory conjunction errors are when you have multiple similar memories. It can seem like a conjunction between them might have come from the relevant source. Suggestibility is related to misattribution. It is when fabricated memories are implanted from within the framing of the stimulus. This is a common consequence of leading questions, questions that are phrased to lead you to a certain conclusion. Suggestibility relies on two different conditions that we experience throughout our lives. Memory distrust syndrome, which is our own distrust of our own memories to varying degrees, and then false memory syndrome, when memories that are false are believed and have significant effect on a person's concepts or relationships. Bias is the way that our current knowledge is affected by our previous knowledge. There are a number of different types of biases. I couldn't name them all, but here are a few of them. Consistency bias, confirmation bias, hindsight bias, egocentric bias, stereotypical bias. The sin of persistence is when unwanted memories are repeatedly recalled. While the mechanism of persistence is not well understood, we know that it is related to the underlying emotional data stored within our memories. Some examples of persistence memory errors are the self-explanatory song stuck in the head phenomenon and post-traumatic stress disorder. Transience. In my video, The Paradox of Infinite Knowledge, we discussed the physical necessity for the brain to have a finite, limited capacity. If mental capacity is finite, then after X amount of time, we would reach our limit and then be completely unable to form new memories. Since our capacity is finite, evolution led our brains to develop mechanisms in which less useful memories can be lost to free up space for new ones to be made. Absent-mindedness. The reason why we forget via absent-mindedness is because we trade encoding reliability for additional processing power. The fact that we can make this trade-off enables us to divert our attention. It is an unintended consequence of this trade-off. Ugly sisters were originally thought to be the cause of blocking. They are not. They're just a symptom. But we still don't really know why blocking occurs, but there are many teams of scientists who are currently trying to work it out. In order for us to think we understand a concept, we may require specific mental representations of the source of the information to give us a sense of our understanding being complete. Misattribution arises when we recall this information incorrectly. Suggestibility. Life is always changing. We need to be flexible to those changes. This means plausible sounding new information needs to be able to replace the old. When recall is inhibited, sometimes we generate new information to complete our representation based on information presented to us. Biases help us make sense of the world. They make our worldviews seem more consistent, which is good for promoting sanity and minimizing confusion and other types of cognitive dissonance. Although persistent memories may be unwanted, the brain needs some way to rank/prioritize the memories it stores, and emotional content is one of the better ways to get that accomplished. The sin of persistence is a byproduct of this internal mechanism. So what does this mean for the ship of Theseus thought experiment? Well, if our memories guarantee our identities to us, then our sense of identity is just as flawed as our memories. Our only method of assuring ourselves that we are the same person that we were yesterday, a month ago, a year ago, etc., is fallible, in which case, we have no such guarantee in the first place. I'd like to give a special shout out to Daniel Schacter, whose book, The 7 Sins of Memory, was the primary source for this video. Thanks for watching.